Hi, it's Steve from PartSelect. Today we're going to show you how to change a defrost thermostat on your refrigerator. And it's a really easy job. All you need is a Phillips screwdriver, and maybe a Stubby Phillips screwdriver, 1/4-inch nut driver, a pair of needle nose pliers, a pair of slip joint pliers, and a pair of strippers and cutters. Let me show you how we do it. Because we'll be working with some electrical circuits in this repair, the first thing we'll need to do is to disconnect the power to the refrigerator. So pull it forward enough that you can remove the plug. Now we'll begin by opening the freezer door, removing all of the items in the bins, and then removing all of the shelving. The shelves will lift up on the right hand side, pull towards the right, and lift out. Bins will just slide forward. There's a stop function, so you'll have to tilt up in the front and lift it the rest of the way out. Now next we're going to remove all of the Phillips screws that hold that evaporator cover in place so that we can gain access to the component. Now we'll remove those 6 Phillips screws that hold that evaporator cover in place. Now that we've got that cover free, if you haven't already done so, we'll remove the Phillips screws from the left side shelf brackets. And you can remove the 2 rear screws and just loosen the 2 front ones. And just let the supports hang from the side of the cabinet. Now at this point we can tilt that evaporator cover sideways enough to slide it out. The defrost thermostat is located right at the very top of the evaporator, and it plugs into a harness at the back. And to remove that, we'll need to pull that plug from the back wall, as well as disconnect wires to the evaporator fan motor. There'll be 2 power wires and a ground wire on that. We'll pull those off. And you can locate 2 heater wires tucked in behind. They have little locking tabs on them, so disengage the locking tabs and disconnect the harness. Now we can pull that 6-pin plug out. It may be in there fairly tight. And there are some sharp fins on that evaporator, so be very careful working in this area. If need be, put a pair of slip joint pliers on that connector to pull it off. Once we've pulled that plug out, we can detach the ground wire clip at the very back, and then carefully pry that thermostat from the tubing. Be careful not to damage the tubing. Just has a spring clip on it. Now we can pull that whole assembly out so that we can cut the defrost thermostat off and splice in our new one. Now that we have that defrost thermostat and wire harness assembly on a suitable work surface, what we're going to do is to cut the existing wires to that thermostat. Typically there'll be a red or a pink and a brown wire, so we'll cut those a couple inches away from the connector. And we'll discard the old thermostat, and we'll strip back about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch of wire on the harness. And then depending on what type of wire connector you're using, you have a choice of either the butt splice type connectors or a crimp-on connector or a twist-on Moret style. We'll fasten, if we're using the butt splice type, we'll fasten one end of that right to the harness. Make sure it's fully inserted into the connector. Crimp it securely. the same with the second one. Check those, make sure they made a good solid crimp. Next we'll take our new thermostat. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to strip a little 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch of insulation from the end of it. And just twist those strands so they're nice and tight. And then we're going to insert into the opposite end of the connector. Make sure that the copper is fully inserted into the connector, and then crimp it tightly again. Do the same thing with the remaining connector. And check both of them. Make sure we've got a good, strong connection. Now, because those connectors will be in a moist environment, it's recommended that you cover that whole section with some electrical tape. Cover those connections as tight as you can. Prevent any moisture from getting at those connectors so that they don't corrode. And now we're ready to reinstall that assembly in the refrigerator. Now the first step will be to connect this ground wire clip to the heat shield at the back of the evaporator. And again, we are working in an area where there's some fairly sharp fins, so take your needle nose pliers and grasp that connector. Reach in on the right hand side there and snap that into place. Alright, we'll pick it up from there. Make sure that's a good connection to ground there. Next we can plug that 6-pin connector in and reconnect the leads to the heater. Make sure the locking tabs engage. Tuck those wires back out of the way. Now we can take that new thermostat and we're going to clip it just on the end of the aluminum tubing. You may need to lift that spring clip just slightly so that we don't put too much pressure on the tubing. Make sure it makes good contact with the tubing. And we'll tuck that wire harness in behind, and we'll reconnect the 3 wires to the evaporator fan motor. And again, make sure we have good positive connection. And now we're ready to put the evaporator fan cover back on. Okay, just make sure that we have all 6 of these screws started before you tighten any of them. Now, once we have all of them in, we can tighten them up. Next, we'll put the shelf brackets back in position. We can tilt them up approximately where they should be, and then just tighten those front screws enough to hold it in place. And then we'll install the rear screws. Now, if you had to remove the auger assembly on your model, you can now put that back in place, and then we can put the shelves in and the baskets, plug the unit back in, and our repair is complete.
I told you it was an easy job. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your repair.